it is part of what we're here to do. And I think what we are here to do even more so is, as we are going through difficulties and pain and challenges, which we all do, as we learn from it, then offer that out to others. And that's where your compassion will likely grow.
Hello, and welcome to the Conscious Communion podcast, where we traverse through the inner dwellings of the human experience through conversation. I'm your host, Danae. Join me as we explore the interconnection of creativity and community. Delores Cruz is a retired elementary school teacher and the author of 2 books. In 2017, Delores lost her 24-year-old son, Eric, suddenly, and from then on has been on a spirit-led journey through the multifaceted waters of grief. Through this monumental life experience, Delores alchemized her grief, writing Look Around, a mother's journey from grief and despair to healing and hope, and her recently published book, A Bird Called Wisdom, Poems on Grief, Transformation, and Renewal. Amidst the hardships Delores has endured, she continues to find beauty and comfort in honoring the life of her son by supporting others who too have lost children as an affiliate leader and a caring listener to the international support organization Helping Parents Heal. Delores is the mother to one of my very best friends, and I am so honored to have her here. Welcome, Delores.
Thank you so much, Danae. I'm so happy to be here with you to have this talk.
I'm so grateful. You are truly such an inspiration, and I admire you for your courage and your strength, and just for being a model of grace.
Well, thank you. I just am doing whatever I can, right, to make the best out of whatever situation I've been given. And I mean, that's pretty much what it is. That's what I'm doing. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We need more people doing this in itself, right? All of us will experience grief at one time or another.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It's going to be, it's just inevitable, and it's part of life. Mm-hmm. It is. And everyone experiences it in a different way. It's a different journey for everybody. And we are here, hopefully, to help each other through.
Yeah. And you're doing that, and not only by expressing your work creatively and just the experience that you've gone through, but you're also holding space for hundreds of people through a support group, which I think is so, again, admirable, and it's honorable. And because we all will go through this immense feeling of grief at some point in time, to be able to step into the space as a space holder to hold people in their hearts with care, love, and compassion it's vital work. And so I'm so curious if you would mind sharing just a little bit about how that journey began for you. I know so much of it was coming into the grief and traversing that, but if you wouldn't mind just sharing kind of what that whole process has looked like for you to carry your grief and then to alchemize it into using it to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in this particular case, it's my son, 24-year-old son, Eric. This was May of 2017, and he was killed in a car accident. And it was unbelievable and unbearable and devastating. And I often compare it to just falling into this deep, dark hole and not knowing how to get out of it, wondering if I could get out of it. It was just, but knowing somewhere in there that somehow there was a way, but I didn't know yet. And my intention was to find out what could I do. I I think a lot of things I did. I've heard other people have tried the same. Right away, within a week, I was in a therapy with a awesome grief specialist that I believe I was led to. She really held me, I mean that figuratively. It was a space I could go to where I was safe, where I could say everything I needed to say and express everything, and I was heard and understood. It's so important to hear people in grief. We need to tell this story, and I was able to say everything I needed to say about my son, and spent a year and a half there. But during that time, also just read books, if you want to call it research, wherever I was guided to find out about grief and how to go on, and spiritual, and the way it related spiritually as well. I knew he was around. I was getting signs and connections anyway from him. But that pain of the physical absence, it's just so hard to navigate. So I did read some books by other parents. I actually found two support groups. One was through David Kessler, who's a grief specialist in the LA area, and he has a website with amazing resources, and he has offered workshops, and I've read many of his books as well. And it got involved with him as well. But at the same time, another group called Helping Parents Heal, where we have more spiritual and afterlife type talks there, which totally resonated for me. And we could share the connections we were feeling with our children. This was specifically for parents. And David's group is, just in general, any kind of grief, any and all kinds. So as I read some books by other parents, it really helped me and comforted me. And interestingly, my therapist said to me at one point, it was only after a few months, she said, "Do you think you have a book in you?" That's how she said it. And my response was, no, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't write books. And then I believe she brought it up again, maybe another 6 months later. And I was like, I don't know. But then someone else, it was like it kept coming up, right? So then the seed had sort of been planted, and I thought, maybe. But I was reading these books by other parents that were very helpful and comforting. And I thought, I would like to do that. I just had, how? I don't know. And I had a very interesting experience. I was still working at the time. I'm retired now, teacher, and I was driving to work in the morning. And it's not a long drive, about 15 minutes. And I got this, I don't know how to describe it, just download, right? I've heard people say that, of that my book would be like this. It's going to have this chapter. It pretty much spelled it out. And I thought, wow. I mean, I was just really kind of in this other space for that few minutes or whatever it was. Got to work, wrote it all down, and thought that was really interesting, but I didn't do anything about it until about March of 2020, when we were all staying home and not going anywhere. And I thought, okay, it's time. And I wrote this book, and I truly believe, with the help of Eric, I lit a candle as I sat down every day to write, and also asked, angels and guides to be present, and other ancestors as well. And I trust that I believe they were, and that was my support system as I wrote and learned the whole process, right, of not only writing it, but actually getting it self-published. And I felt good to share the story because I did get response from various people thanking me. And when I get that, then I know I'm being helpful, right? I'm here. Why am I here? I mean, that was one of the questions I even asked in the beginning after losing Eric's physical presence was, what's the point of all this? Why am I here? And I knew I was still here for a reason. I had no doubt about that. And I just wanted, my prayer, if you will, was that I will do what I am here to do. Guide me, show me, help me. I want to serve. I want to make a difference while I'm here, hopefully. And so I was able to do that first book, and was able to do a couple of other nice writing opportunities as well, some freelance work. And then about a year ago, I thought, because I do meditate daily, that started again about 5.5 years ago. And it was a new thing for me, but I was drawn to it. And so during my meditations, sometimes I would write. Some people call it channel writing, automatic writing, but I would just allow this flow. And as I would write and maybe sometimes go back and look, I noticed it seemed poetic the way it came out. And about a year, maybe a little over a year ago, maybe I thought, why not make another book, right? I could just put all these poems into a book. And I did decide, I think it was just about a year ago, okay, well, let's do it, even though I never thought I would do another one. And literally went through 6 years of journals, pulling out what I thought would be appropriate. And that took many months just to do that, just pull those out and type them up and all that. And little by little, here it is. It just came out, 2 months ago, I guess. It was self-published. And again, it's a form of expression. It was therapeutic for me to tell my story, to tell Eric's story, to tell the amazing, beautiful, what's opened up spiritually for me, taking me places I never experienced before, I've never been to before, and feeling really grateful, finally coming to a place that I never thought I could get to in the beginning, but finally coming to this place of true, deep joy, even though things are hard, still challenging. Just because you have hard days and other situations doesn't mean there's still a joy underneath, and still in the grief. The grief doesn't go away, but I have learned to carry both the joy and the grief together. And so in doing that, I, again, just hope I can be helpful, hope I can serve. When I talk to people, I love talking to other people who are working with their grief or expressing their grief. And I feel just this carrying this back and forth. It's not just that I'm helping someone else. They help me. There's always, whenever I'm talking to someone, it's just such a beautiful communion, right? That's the right word. So, yeah, that's, and then, yes, helping in groups. I help not only with that one group with David Kessler, but I also help with the Helping Parents Heal. I have a local group for parents that we meet in person, and as well as doing the international organization. So, yeah.
Wow. That's really incredible that such pain has been a portal for you in revealing these new layers to you, these new iterations to Delores. And I'm sure that was just surprising, right? Especially your therapist. I love that your therapist brought up the book to you before it was, even a thought within your own mind, like in that frame of reference for you. And yet now you've published 2 books, and in the expression of grief and in the momentum of feeling it all and allowing yourself to feel it all and sitting with it, and then sharing what that process has been like.
Yes. So, yeah, who I never ever would have imagined, and we just don't know, right? But I do believe somehow I was open to wherever this was going to take me. It's harsh and difficult, and yet I have one of a million things I've learned in many spiritual readings is that it is through great love and great suffering that there is great transformation. And that, boy, do I understand that from experience. There can be, if it's allowed. And I believe I allowed it without necessarily being able to say that at the beginning. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were open. I mean, even just taking it upon yourself to do the due diligence to find a grief therapist, to find support specifically for your grief. I mean, I've witnessed folks that sit in their grief and just sit in their grief. And I know that that's a part of the process too. And also, I think at some point, like you've said, it's how can you use this pain to be of service? And you've certainly done that. And I think that we all have a unique opportunity to, so often our passions and our purpose can be found in the hard things that we've been through in our lives. And really going to those hard, sticky places can unveil a lot more flow and ease. And I'm sure you found that through your meditation practice and through your spiritual practice. So I'd love for you to even share about that. What has your spiritual practice been for you through and amidst traversing through this immense grief?
At the very beginning, I was raised in a traditional Christian religion, and it was great. I mean, it was fine. I didn't have a problem with that. But when this happened, it did not seem to, I don't want to say that it wasn't enough, but I knew there was more. I was like, I'm not getting this whole picture. But one thing interesting that happened there's so many ways this has gone, but I'd love to mention this, and I know you'll appreciate it, and maybe you already read about it in the book, but we have this amazing pine tree in our front yard. It's got to be about 100 years old based on the old age of the house and all of that. It's amazing. And I've always loved it. And within a week or so, within the first week, I guess, I just don't know how to explain it, but I was drawn to go out there and lay underneath her branches and just look at, this was May. It was beautiful. The sky was, wasn't like too cold or spring. And I would lay there and just look through her branches to this beautiful blue sky, often with puffy white clouds. And I was at peace when I did that, with all the torment and the pain and the brutality of that suffering that I was experiencing. I just knew that if I went there and could stay there for a while, I was okay. And I was. And that went on, for a while. I would talk to her. I mean, I started doing this and I would never have done this before. It just happened. It just came. I feel I was led. I feel the tree called me, and I didn't understand that until after a while. I looked back and I would say, wow, that's what happened. That's really what happened. So I did, first of all, really become much more connected and in tune with nature. That is so spiritual in and of itself. Just being. We live in this life where we have to do all the time. And I was beginning to learn about just being, and that was enough, and that was where I could find peace and find spirit and find Eric as well. So that was part of it. At some point, I guess through the groups, one of my groups, there was so much talk, of course, about meditations and connecting with our children, but I started to meditate. And what I have upstairs in my room, I have a friend of mine made this little table, not very tall, but I have a couple cushions and I sit in front of it, and I have the covering, if you want to call it a tablecloth, is actually one of Eric's shirts. And it's just right. It's just the pattern. I looked for the right one because we had some of his shirts. And I've just got various things there, many of them that what people have given me, and it's so meaningful. But I have little objects that are of meaning to me. Somebody gave me a beautiful, I don't know how the shape, like not egg shaped, but like a flat egg shaped rose quartz. I have a couple of various rose quartz from different people, just a couple. Of course, I have some incense. I've got some candles. I've got another gemstone that my niece gave me. I've got a stone that my brother gave me. And I've got some angel. I've got a rose quartz angel that someone very special gave me that was special to Eric as well. And a couple of, I've got a Buddha, I've got Mother Mary and just various relics or whatever you want to call them. And it's a space, right? It's just a space. And I love being there. I'm there every morning and night, 15 to 30 minutes, just kind of depending on how that goes, how the flow goes. I've got some readings there with me that I'm reading constantly something new every day, but if there's anything that has really spoken to me, it's there if I want to pick it up again. And I've got my journal, so I can write if I need to. I don't always, but sometimes something will come, I don't think I could ever continue my life without doing this. It's just part of it. And it helps me. Part of my prayer is that I want to, I'll tell you. So Eric's initials are ERIC. So that my intention is to expand for E, to receive for R, to integrate physical and spiritual life, and C, to connect. And I go over that every time I sit there, to expand and receive and integrate, connect. And that comes from Eric's name. And so I have that. I have various I can go on. So I'm not going to go on too long, but and not only that, but I also pray that I hold this thread of connection throughout my day so that it's always there in everything I do, and become more aware, no matter where I am or who I'm talking to or anything, to try to continue with that awareness just throughout. So that's all of that, never had that before. And it's where I've been led. And I know I'm continuing, right? We're not at the end until we make our transitions to the next life, mm-hmm. or to spirit, I should say. But yeah.
Yeah, sounds like you have been led to such an incredible ritual and a practice that has become so sacred to you. And I believe that so much of the sacred spaces that we get to create for ourselves, while it does take discipline in the very beginning, it becomes part of this like innate sense of desire and being like, I have my altar that's set up, and I have my cushions that I sit in front of, and I have my little trinkets that just mean something to me. And that in the morning is nourishing, so very nourishing. And so to have that as your practice is, especially having come from a Christian space, I'm sure was wildly comforting because of how expansive and how different it was. I like to think of spirit as just great mystery and the divine essence of all that is and all that we don't know, right? It's like,
yes. You see, before I thought I knew, and then I found out that I don't know because it's too big. It's too great. We can have a sense, we can have an idea, we can, putting it into words. How do you do that really? It's difficult because there really are no actual words to really describe all that is. And that's exactly what it is. It's all that is. And so, and I like the other analogy I have is that to me, God was in a box. It was nice. And I knew exactly what was in that box. I knew how it all worked and how big it was. And then it went boom. And when this happened, and it's huge and magnificent and indescribable, inexplainable, and amazing. And it's so much more than I used to, or maybe some people may still give it credit. There's so much there.
There's so much. I mean, I think circling back to what you shared earlier about holding grief and joy and in the same, like you can hold it in the same breath. It's knowing that the two are, you can find one with the other. And I know that takes practice and it seems so far, but with the immensity of the divine and the great mystery, knowing that they're on the same polar line, they're just on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So just knowing that it's accessible still. And I would love for you to just share and further extend what your process has been like to find the joy amidst the grief and to really do your due diligence to find that within yourself, because that's you have to find it with source and within yourself to then share it with others. And you've done that.
I have, first of all, I guess, come to really understand that Eric is not gone completely. So that, his spirit, however you want to call it, describe it, is here, literally. His physical body is not. That's the part I grieve. I wish I could just see him and see that smile and talk to him and hear his responses and give him a hug and hear his laugh. So I miss that. But I do talk to him. I just have no doubt. I don't know how to explain it, but I have no doubt that he's here. I can't say I necessarily hear him all the time, but I sometimes get a sense of what he is saying to me. And I know that a lot of times with people who, especially in the beginning, but it's painful for them to see pictures, to remember. Sometimes they like to keep busy so that they don't have to remember. Honestly, I have found my joy in the remembering, in the photos, in some of the videos we have, in just remembering and talking to him. As I say, I talk to him about some of the amazing times we had together and being so grateful for that. I'm so grateful. When I am looking at pictures, I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, and feeling thankful that I had him here physically for that long, for the 24 and a half years, and knowing there will be a time where I get to see him again in full awareness, so to speak, if that's how you want to describe it, when it's my turn to be in spirit, completely, fully in spirit. And so I just find joy in that. I find joy in hearing the music in general, but he was a drummer. Hearing him play and hearing his band play was one of the greatest joys. And those memories are amazing. And I'm so blessed to have recordings of his band. I can listen anytime I want. I can hear his drums. But even when I listen to other music and music that I know he liked, and I hear those drums, I just see him playing those drums, and it brings me joy. It really does. I love talking about him. I love telling stories about him. And I guess it's because maybe for some people, the thought is, oh my gosh, they're gone. That's not how I see it. Yeah, his physical body's gone, but he's still around, and so are all my other ancestors who I can talk to as well when I need to, and I know they're with me and have my back, so to speak. And so, doing what I do by writing, that brings me joy. There's a music school I found locally, because I was looking for a couple of years until I found an awesome school called Neighborhood Music School in Los Angeles. And so my husband and I do provide an annual scholarship for a drum student. And I've gotten, to know them a little bit over there. And I just feel like Eric's like, yeah, this is great. And so in his honor, I love doing things in Eric's honor that helps somebody else and keeps it all moving, keeps that ripple, the love, the joy that he brought to this earth. It's continuing to ripple out still. And as we all do that. But I know that people are still feeling the effects of his, I like to call it his awesomeness, his compassion. He had a lot of compassion for people, and I saw that firsthand, and I've heard a lot of stories about that too. So I guess it's true. But it continues. So, yeah.
Yeah. The stories, I remember being at his services and the stories that were shared. Mm. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just the joy that he brought to people.
Yeah.
That smile alone. What a smile.
Oh yeah. It was a little mischievous. A little bit. It was like, okay.
Those are the best though, right? Like,
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really to watch you as a mother go through this unspeakable pain, and then to really just allow yourself to feel it all, to sit with the grief.
Yeah. That's important, actually. And I learned that. I did it automatically anyway. I allowed myself to just, in the beginning, you go through this thing and you hear everybody talk about this who goes through grief, where grief bursts. I don't know if you've heard of that, but you can't do anything about it. It just comes out. It's like a flood. And rather than try to stop that, no, I just let it. And it's healthy and it's important. And you have to honor your grief by allowing it to flow, by facing it, not running from it, which I've also learned about. Maybe you've heard of this one, but David Kessler has mentioned, I don't know if it's buffalo or some kind of a herding animal like a buffalo, if I'm incorrect on that, but that when the storm is coming, they don't run away from it. They run into it, because by running into it, then through it, you get through it much more quickly than if you're just trying to run away from it. So you're right. Honoring the grief is important and allows you to move through. Like I said, it's never going to be gone, but it will soften over time. It will lessen to some degree, but it won't ever be gone. I don't think ever. But yes, just allowing that to be what it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Without judgment, right? I think.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
You can't do that.
I've heard, people do wonder, gosh, am I doing it wrong? No, you're not doing it wrong. You're doing what you do. And you had mentioned something earlier about maybe staying there for a while. And I think you're right. When the time comes, people will move to whatever's the next place for them. If you have the intention, if your intention is, I will move towards healing, not that you're ever done healing, there's always more. But if that's your intention, of course you'll get there. You will. If your intention is, no, I don't I want to heal. I want to stay here. I'm not going to live, or whatever those types of, if you talk to yourself that way, then of course that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's an intention. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I hear you talk about your experience, I just have like this spirit's telling me just like that you hold deep reverence for all that's here in life, because grief and loss and death is simultaneous with life, right? Like you cannot have one with the other. It's like light and dark. And so you just hold this deep reverence for life and all that is. And to do that takes such courage. And so I want to thank you for being a mirror to me and being a pillar in your community, because for you to show up in the ways that you have, I know that it is you abiding by the divine that is moving through you, and yet you continue to show up to your altar every morning and answer the call.
Yeah. Yes. I must. I do it because we should do it for ourselves, and I do it for Eric as well, and I do it for my family, right? Right. To be all we can be. We are here to experience all of it. It's not always easy, of course. You're right. It's the light and the dark. It is the contrast. It is a tapestry, right? I'm sure it's put that way. With so many different colors and shades and light and dark and everything. And that's actually what makes it beautiful. Yeah. So I do my best. I do my best to honor all of it. Yeah.
And because the holidays are approaching, and the holidays can be such a challenging time for so many people, I would be curious if you would be able to share just a little bit about what has helped you find comfort amidst the holidays and how you hold space for folks amidst this season.
Yes, I'd be happy to. What I've learned is that with holidays and grief, it's up to the griever to do whatever feels right. And if what feels right is we're skipping it, then you skip it. If what feels right is I'm not going to do anything the way I used to do it, then you certainly have the right to start something new. Or if what feels right is I want to continue with all those same traditions, then that's right. In our case, in my case, and with the family, we're all in agreement. We like continuing the same traditions. We still do the same decorating. We still have the same gift gathering. One thing we did, well, I still do it, but one thing all of us did, the very first Christmas without Eric here physically, is and this was my therapist's recommendation, and I thought it was a good one, is that we still bought him a gift and we still wrapped it and put it under the tree. And then afterwards it was donated. And there were still gifts with his name on it under the tree. And for us, that worked. I know for some people, they wouldn't want to do that, and that's fine. But, so I continued to do that. By the way, and I wrote about this recently in a blog, but, Eric's birthday is November 23rd. It was just on Thanksgiving this year. But if it wasn't on Thanksgiving, it was always right next to Thanksgiving. And Black Friday was always the next day. And so when Eric was here for I don't know, 5 years or so, because he was a drummer, what he and I always did is on Black Friday, he and I would go to Guitar Center, look for some good deals on cymbals, because he always needed a new one, because he really, beat them up when he would play. So that's what we did. And so yeah, there was a hole in my heart that first Black Friday when, he wasn't going to go with me, but I went, I bought a cymbal for someone so then I put it under the tree, and then we donated it later. And I have gone every year and again, it's not a sad thing, because when I go, he's with me, and I get little signs that he's with me. And I just love doing it. I feel like I still do it with him. So that's a specific tradition of my personal, that nobody else does it in the family. But we always have a toast for him at the meal. Another awesome thing that this is actually comes from my sister and brother-in-law, because my brother-in-law has just retired from work. I want to say it right, but through mental health, working with families. And I know part of the therapy was drums. So the Congo more looking type drums. He literally has, through work, but also many of his own, he would have 15 drums, let's say. Well, now Eric was present for the first 2 times we did this, but we've continued in Eric's honor, is after the meal for Christmas, we'd sit around at their house. We'd sit. All the drums would come out. We'd all sit. We would do drum circle. And my brother-in-law surprised me when the way he led the drum circle. I thought, very shamanic. And it was like, I didn't know that. And, and it was it's amazing. And I know Eric's there with us. It was beautiful how the very first time, maybe more than the first time, but I do remember that my brother-in-law set up the drums. And there was a chair and there was a white drum and no one used it. It was empty the whole time, but I know who was there, sitting there at that white drum. And that's another thing that many people do and that I like to do as well, is kind of have that extra chair. I mean, it's just symbolic, right? Whether you want to believe it or not, I still think he's here. I think my mom and dad and a lot of people are around with us. So I feel like he is absolutely included in our holidays and in those ways. And if I can think of any others, I'll tell you, but they'll definitely in those ways. Having a special, that's another thing. He used to help me bake cookies. Well, when I bake those cookies, they're for him. So we do that too. Yeah.
I love that the tradition continues. I think that, and again, I'm fully cognizant that may not feel appropriate for some. And that's okay too. And also, that's okay too. I know that the first Christmas after Brian's dad passed, we didn't really do a whole lot. Like, we didn't really do all the things. We were tired. As you know, grief can create an immense amount of exhaustion. And we kind of we ordered in. Like, we just kind of, we were cozy and we watched movies and it was really simple and it was what we needed. And then when we felt like we could the next year, then we did.
Yeah.
It's like showing up as you are, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I know that some people feel there are, social obligations. And again, it's up to you to go or not. You don't have to go if you don't want to. And I've also heard it put as just have an exit plan. If you don't think you can handle it after 20, 30 minutes, just have your plan ready for why you need to go, whatever. And it's fine. You need to honor yourself, especially at this time, and do what works for you and what feels right.
Yeah, what aligns, right? And you'll very quickly realize what aligns and what doesn't. And you don't have to stick to anything. Right. And I'm sure that's been sweet for you to just return back to these moments that you've had with Eric and continue to embrace them and continue to keep him in just like that word of deep reverence. It's like you're holding the tradition so close of buying a new cymbal, and then what a gift to then share it with someone else. Like,
yeah,
that's so sweet. And I know he would love that too. Oh, yeah. He does love that.
Yeah.
And I really like the sentiment of a gift. I really like the sentiment of just, still creating that spaciousness to honor the loved one who's been, who's lost, who's transitioned to the ethers, the next realm.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I would love for you to share one of your poems. I would really love for you to share one of your poems, just so people can get a feel and a sense too. Your creative expression.
Sure. I'm going to go. The book starts. It's slightly chronological. It does start with the beginning, with his transition and the pain. So it does start out with all that pain and confusion. And then it just starts to move into, noticing, what I'm learning, the spiritual connection, the connections with him. So then it moves into more healing. And so I mentioned the tree, so I'm going to just go ahead and and it's kind of what I already told you, but it's one of my favorites, called Healing Tree. That tree, that magnificent pine tree in front of the house, the one I was drawn to lie under right after Eric transitioned. I think possibly she had called me, beckoned me to come outside so that I could lie under her and heal. At the time, I was too filled with fresh grief to even notice how I ended up out there, flat on my back, gazing up through her awesome branches into the pure blue sky, finding some semblance of peace. But now, thinking back to those unbearably painful first months, I believe that tree's spirit called me and gave me her medicine.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for letting me share.
You and I have that deep, deep love and respect for Mother Nature. And I love that. I love that we share that.
Yeah.
It's truly, you mentioned earlier, you can feel the spirit of others. That's like so often my ancestors and spirit speaks to me so clearly. Like I am so much more available to receive whatever information is here for me when I'm outside and I'm holding space amidst nature, putting my phone away, putting the distractions away.
Right. Yeah.
To then just be with.
Yes. Very much.
So this is a question I ask folks after every podcast, and take as long as you want because grief is such an immense topic. If you had one slice of wisdom from your experience and all that you've been through that you could share with others that has made sense for you, what would it be?
Wow. There's so much wisdom in grief if you, again, allow it. I think I already mentioned that the intention, right? That we are here to experience all of it. We do have help around us. The suffering will transform us into something better if we allow it. The diamond, right? It has to go through all that heat. It starts out as coal, and then it's all that heat that transforms it. And also a seed. A seed has to break open in order to grow into an amazing, beautiful plant. And if we can allow that instead of fight it, I guess, we don't like it. Doesn't mean you have to love it, but it is part of what we're here to do. And I think what we are here to do even more so is, as we are going through difficulties and pain and challenges, which we all do, as we learn from it, then offer that out to others. And that's where your compassion will likely grow. And then you can be there for others. Because I do believe the reason we're here, if you want to try to put that somehow, that big question, into something short and concise, but we are here to love and to carry each other along those difficult times, to help each other, to lift each other up, to offer that compassion. And then, because I saw when we were flat on the ground in horrible grief, I saw all the people who came around, all the love that was offered, all the support that was given. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. That first week, it was a Friday. There was that Friday night, Saturday night into Sunday night, which was Mother's Day. The house was filled with love. It was incredible. And I'm so grateful for that. And what can I do, having gone through this, something that I would rather not have gone through, but is to offer that back, right, to others, to be there. And I think that's the whole point, is for us to give and receive, and then give and then receive. And because, yeah, like you said, it's inevitable. You can't get through, but you can't get through this life without pain. It's going to happen in one form or another. Love yourself in that pain. Hold yourself. I had a chiropractor years ago, before I really got any of this. And I don't know what we were talking about. And there was something about, some scoliosis, and, oh, gee, why? And he goes, you got to love you. He goes, that little baby that you've held, that you love more than anything, you can't even describe it. That's how you should love yourself, he said to me. And it impacted me so much. I'll never forget that. I was like, wow. Oh, okay. So that love for self during this time, when you are in pain, whenever, love yourself, hold yourself. And at some point, when you kind of come back to the surface, then you can offer that to others. And I also have learned, by the way, and I didn't mention this earlier, but another form of self-care, it's called grief yoga, that I've learned from an awesome guy named Paul Denniston. And I took that certification course as well. And it's all about loving yourself and moving. And it's not really hard yoga. It's more movement, flow, but just allowing it to come in and go out, and to come in and go out, and to still love yourself. And yeah. So love yourself. I can't put it all to answer your question in just one word, but it's all about love. It's about loving yourself. It's about loving others. And it's about making that space for the flow, just letting it flow through, helping each other.
So beautifully said. And where can people find you and your work?
I have a website. It's called Delores Look Around, one word, no caps, just DoloresLookAround.com. Look Around being the title of my first book, and also something we got from Eric. And then I have a blog with various writings related to grief and spirituality called also Delores Look Around, but it's .blogspot.com. So there's just links to, whether it's my books or some articles I've written or some other interviews. Yeah.
And on Instagram?
Correct. Instagram at Delores Cruz author. That's the one that is related to my author at Delores Cruz author.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your love, and thank you for your generosity in sharing all that you do with others. Thank you for the love that you pour into yourself that is then so felt. It's really incredible to be a witness to this journey that you've gone through. The immensity of the grief, I can't even fathom. I can only empathize and imagine.
Yeah.
But until you know, you can't know. And every experience will be so different.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Danae, for providing this amazing platform. It's so beautiful. It's that opportunity for us to share our stories, which is also why we're here, to share our stories and our hearts, to help each other along the way. And that's what this platform does for so many people. And I am grateful to be part of it today. So thank you so much for all your awesomeness, as I like to say, related to Eric. Yeah. So.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you are truly incredible, and I'm grateful to know you and be a part of your circle. Nick he is the epitome of kindness and compassion, and I know he learned it from both you and Joey. So thank you for holding that space and making it known in all of your children.
Yes, of course. Thank you. They're all so amazing. Nick, Jessica, Vanessa, as well. And they inspire me as well every day, each of them. And my husband, Joey.
Yay, Joey. So much love, so much gratitude. I appreciate you, and I love you.
I love you.
Sending big blessings and hugs.
Okay, thanks.
Bye. Thanks. Hey there, it's Danae again. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. If this podcast resonates, please like, subscribe, follow, and share if you're willing. Reviews help too, so if you're feeling the vibe, please leave a review where you can. Sending all the love. Peace.